Want to set up your own cloud-based research environment that uses RStudio, Python, and Quarto? Stick around and I'll show you how to do exactly that efficiently and quickly without spending too much time on settings and configurations. This way, you're going to be ready just to do your research. Hi everyone, my name is Bogdan Popescu and I'm an assistant professor at John Cabot University of Rome. I also used to teach at Oxford and Princeton. That's why I know how essential it is to have a powerful, flexible research setup. In this video, I'll show you how to set up an Amazon Web Services EC2 instance that has RStudio, Quarto, and Python installed. So this is going to be a perfect environment for data science and reproducible research. There are several benefits associated with using Amazon Web Services. The first benefit is scalability. The fact that Amazon's Web Services allows you to have access to powerful computers that use maybe better memory or better storage than your own machine. So depending on the type of project that you have in mind, you may need to have access to those kinds of machines. The second benefit to using Amazon Web Services is constant internet access. Imagine you are developing an application that needs to have constant internet connection. You're using your laptop, and of course, you have to move your laptop around, which may imply that you may have to interrupt the connection to internet. Having Amazon Web Services servers would allow constant access to internet. The third important benefit to Amazon Web Services is distributed computing. Imagine you may need to split your big data set into multiple chunks, and you want to run separate analyses for these individual chunks. So you could set up multiple servers with exactly the same configuration that would run the analysis in a parallel fashion. So those would be the three of the most important benefits that I personally have experienced when using Amazon Web Services. Okay, so now we're going to try to set up Amazon Web Services. So we first go to the website. So this is the Amazon Web Services website. We simply log in, we sign in. You should choose sign in using root user email. At least this is my preferred type of account. I put in my email address. I press next. It's going to ask me for my password. I wait to sign in. And this sign me in. So these are some of the recently visited subsections of the Amazon Web Services. The one that I'm interested in is EC2. So I go to EC2, I wait a few seconds. So I'm going to press on Launch Instance. That is the first step in setting up a server. So I'm going to call this RStudio, let's say. Choose whatever name you prefer. Then I am going to choose Ubuntu for my preferred operating system. For the Amazon machine image, I'm going to choose free tier. That doesn't make any difference. Architecture 64-bit is fine. And then here, the instance type, this is where I'm generally interested in a machine that is pretty similar to my configuration. So for my current needs, let's say this would be 16 gigabytes and a 4-core GPU. Of course, depending on your needs, you may want to choose different type of setup. But just for the purpose of this tutorial, let's just choose a 16 gigabyte memory computer with a 4-core CPU. Now, we would want to create a pair in order to log in. This is pretty straightforward. Let's just call this something. I'm going to call it Bogdan 5. I've already created a few key pairs with this name, so that's why this is complaining. So I'm just going to say create key pair. This is going to get this document in your downloads folder, going there, and then placing it in my Word folder. So in this case, this is this project that I'm currently working on. I'm gonna create a folder here. File, pass. I'm gonna call this file, pass, file, and I'm gonna place this PEM file within. Drag and drop. Close my download folder if I don't need it anymore. Okay. All these boxes, so this SSH traffic is already ticked. also tick allow HTTPS traffic and allow HTTP traffic from the configure storage. This is where I want 30 gigabytes. This is going to be necessary also for the operating system, but also for the other analyses or data that you may want to produce. And finally, we click on launch instance. We just wait a few seconds until this is set up. And we have this first instance set up. We go here to instances. This is the one that we just created, the server whose box I just took the rest of instances that I had created before. Okay, so the next step in our configuration is to go to security groups. So the way we do this is by clicking here, security, and we are going to click on security groups. So once again, there's multiple tabs under the instance. The one that we're interested in is security. So we click on this security groups link. This is gonna take us to this menu, and we'll continue on edit inbound rules. So here we have to establish the following. We're choosing custom TCP, editing this to 8787, so the port range, and we are choosing the CIDR block 000. The next step for the second option is to have SSH set to 22, so that's fine already. So I'm just going to use this, and then the third option here would just leave it as is. So we're saving the rules. We're waiting a few seconds. This is done now. We're going to go back to instances. So this is the instance that we just had. The next step we would like to set up the IAM role. Okay, so here too, we are going to actions, so make sure that instance type is selected. We're going to actions, we're going to security, and we are modifying the IAM role. Here, we're choosing EC2 S3 access. So the reason why we need to change this is because we want to connect data to the server. So imagine you actually want to upload some data that you're working with onto the server. So in order to do that, you need to have this enabled. So we're going to update IAM role. So that's noticed how the IAM role has changed now to EC3 S3 access. Okay, so we're done with this. The next step is to actually connect to the server. So in the first instance, we're going to connect to the server through our operating system terminal. So in my case, that's a Mac OS. So I'm going to type the following. So this, we need to link our key path. So in my case, as you saw earlier, I put the key path as 4. Let me just double check that this is correct. So this should be file pass 5. Might put 5, change this 5. So I'm going to copy and paste this into my terminal. Here it is. Nothing, no, let's not complain, let's not do anything. I am also changing this here. So this is trying to get the public IP address and to connect it to our computer. So we are going to need to identify our IP address, our server's IP address. So the server's IP address is written here, public IPv4 address. So we're just going to copy this. I'm going to replace this here. Notice that I also changed the PM path. So I'm just going to copy this whole thing. And I am going to my terminal, paste it, return. It's going to ask a question. The key is not known. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? And we're going to say yes. Okay, you notice that it says permanently add to this email address. And this green text here suggests that we are connected to our server. Okay, the next step we need to do is to install RStudio. So we're going to paste it here. We're just updating all our settings onto our operating system. We'll just wait a few seconds until all the relevant files are downloaded. So, and then we're installing other required software. This might take a few seconds, maybe up to a minute, but not too. But in the meantime, the next step would be actually to tell the operating system to get RStudio from a specific location to install the latest version. The latest version is this RStudio Server 2025. So this is going to be the link that I'm going to use, but feel free to update the server to whatever version of RStudio Server you prefer. For example, previously I installed this one, but it seems like a more up-to-date version with this. So I'm just going to copy this email, this address here, and paste it onto the terminal. So here too, it seems like it was able to connect to that address. So our server is installed, or it was fetched from that address. So this is actually now the installation phase. Open again. Then it says, do you want to install the software package? The answer is yes. So this is what this is doing right now. And the next step, we will actually be able to go straight to where RStudio was installed. But before we do that, we're going to be asked for a username and password. So the username is always going to be Ubuntu. We still need to establish our password. So the way we do this is by typing sudo passwd Ubuntu. So this is where we're establishing the password. You know, it's up to you what password you want to do. I'm just going to choose password and password. Oh, goodness. Let me try this again. Type correctly. There you go. So of course you probably want to figure out or set up a more secure password than password, but this is just for the purpose of this demonstration. The next step in our tutorial is to install Quarto. So here's how we do that. So this should have been installed successfully. This should have been fetched successfully. This is the installation part. Quarto, we're going to say yes, because we're asked here, do you want to install the software package? I'm going to say yes. This also takes a few seconds. The next step is to install Jupyter and Python. So the way we do this is by typing the file. So that should be done. We are now creating a virtual environment. So this is done. We are activating the virtual environment. We are installing Jupyter. We're installing Pandas, the most basic libraries that exists in Python. This is pretty close to being done. The next step would be to check if Jupyter was installed. So here let's type this in. And this was installed. So now we're finally ready to see our server and to see RStudio on our server. So the first thing we need to do is to make sure that we have the right IP for our server. So in this case, this is the IP. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly update this old IP to my most recent IP. Notice also that this has to be HTTP. Make sure that this is not HTTPS, otherwise it's not going to work. So HTTP, and then the IP address that you were able to find here, right? So notice this is the same IP address as the one here. And then at the end, colon and 8787. So we're ready to access our RStudio server. So I pasted that in the URL box, and notice that we have a login page. So here, the username will be Ubuntu, as I mentioned earlier, and the password that we just set. So in my case, that was password. As I mentioned, make sure that you have a more secure password than this, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I just went with this. So I tick the box which says stay signed in when browser closes, and I'm just going to sign in. Well, I'm not going to save the password, and we're just waiting a few seconds. And here we are, an environment that we're very familiar with, at least if you're used to RStudio. This is RStudio on the server. So this looks pretty cool. The next step is to install some more packages. So because we want to connect RStudio to Jupyter, we want to use the Reticulate library. So we are going to install Reticulate. So we're going to the console, and we are typing it in our markdown. This is the typical installation procedure for Reticulate in our markdown. This does indeed take maybe like 2 minutes. Okay, so this was more like 4 minutes. This was a bit more intense because it was loading up, and well, Reticulate just needs more. It's a bigger library, so it needs more time. Okay, now we're going to finally move to the terminal that we're going to use in the terminal on the server. So you can access this by just clicking the terminal tab. So what we're going to do, we are going to install the Amazon Web Services so that we're connected to our account. The way we do this is by using the curl function. We're just waiting 1 second. We are going to install. We just downloaded it, installed. Well, we're going to first unzip the file, and we are going to install it. So now this is done. Okay, this is an important part of setting up RStudio for Amazon Web Services. So the importance, it's very often that we also need to load up files into Amazon for services. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to create a bucket onto the Amazon Web Services S3. So we're going to open up a new tab. We're going to access S3. We are going to log in onto our S3 account. If you don't have one, you have to register. In my case, I already have one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to here S3. So this is the S3 management console. So I am going to create a new bucket. So I'm just going to call it dash data 4. And I am going to just create it. Now, so you just leave the settings as they are. And now I have data 4. Okay. The next step is to put a file onto this bucket. So this is the one that we just created. I'm clicking on it. I'm pressing upload. And I am going to add a file. So I'm just going to quickly choose a file for one of the projects that I'm currently working on. I am going to choose a very simple short data set that's 1 megabyte. So I am going to upload it. It should take a few seconds, but in principle it should be pretty quick. Close this, or maybe I'm just going to keep track of the bucket address. So I'm going to update this thing here. I'm going to go to the terminal. I'm going to press the S3. So notice that it identifies the CSV file. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy the CSV file onto the server. So notice that I'm updating this file here. I need to make sure that the file name is exactly the same. So this is what I had before, RDTA data file, and I am going to make sure that the same name, So copy this here and I'm pasting. So once again, notice that this is in terminal, right? So this is going to be on the RStudio's memory. I'm going to try to see if I can refresh RStudio so that we can see the file. Get a few seconds. So notice that the memory has been updated. So now we can actually see the CSV file that we just got. So having this 3 bucket is crucially important if you're operating with data sets from outside, from your local machine. Okay, the next step is to finally open up a Quarto document. So we're going to go to new file, Quarto document, let's call it example, create. We're waiting a few seconds and it loads up, pressing on source because we want to work with the code, get rid of the outline. This is the standard example that RStudio gives us. So this is R and this should work. We are going to call the Reticulate library and we are going to indicate the Python environment. So we're just going to get rid of this, press play, wait a few seconds, so no errors, this seems to work. The next step that we want to do is to try to load the CSV file. So that will be, say, text, CSV, and the address of this is potentially important. Upon /b result .csv and press return. Yeah, I probably did it incorrectly. Let me try to see if it works. Oh, right. And there you are. So now you have it in memory, have the data set in memory. The final step is to load So it's just pandas as this ed and press enter. And Python works. So we have pandas import pandas as import numpy as an e, and this should be, so you have pandas, numpy, everything set up in. So this is how you set up RStudio, Python, and Quarto on Amazon Web Services. So now you should be ready to go and focus on your research.